Welcome to the All-NBA show presented by FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Get started with a $150 bonus bet when you win your first bet on FanDuel.com/All-NBA. I'm Marc Campbell, filling in today for Adam Mares, joined as always by Legs. Legs, how you doing today?
What's up, man? I'm good. Wild night. Wild night.
Thanks
last
for having
night,
me, man.
Still wrapping my head around what happened last night, so I can't wait to get into it, man. But it's good to be on with you.
The basketball gods have blessed us. We are living in the golden age of basketball, and we had two of the best games last night. We had an all-time performance, and somehow Steph Curry's 52 points, 12 threes was topped by maybe the game of the year. We had Nuggets, Wolves in Denver, two teams that for whatever reason, like they got some funk to them, and we had an all-timer last night. Nuggets go down in double overtime, 140 to 139. Absolutely monster games from Jokic. He had 61, but it wasn't enough. What was your biggest takeaway from that game when you left it?
Well, I guess the biggest takeaway has to be the ending, right? I mean, you look at what Denver did in that game to win the game and making the plays they had to make to put themselves in position. You get a turnover inside of 15 seconds, like 12 seconds to go, up one, and you have like a 2-on-1 situation in the open floor. Russell Westbrook, Christian Brown are out ahead of the pack. There's one defender back, and you're up 12 seconds to go. So now we get into the debate about dribbling the clock out, letting somebody come foul you, killing as much clock as you can before you go to the line and try to go up three. You know, Minnesota still has plenty of time at that point to get a three-point shot off to tie the game. But instead, Russell Westbrook decides he's going to go full speed, 100 miles an hour. He's going to try to convert a layup in the open floor. I don't even know exactly how you can miss a layup that badly. That's uncontested in the NBA. But the ball never even came close to getting over the rim. He short arms it, hits the bottom of the rim, and now you go the other way. Minnesota plays. They get a three-point look in the corner by Nikola Alexander-Walker and Russell Westbrook to compound the missed layup, runs right through him and fouls him and sends him to the line. And Nikola Alexander-Walker goes, makes two to give him the lead, misses the last one on purpose with a tenth of a second left. So you can't possibly have back-to-back mistakes that impactful in a game. Like, you just don't see the same player make mistakes on that level within that short a time frame to cost your team a game, but that's exactly what happened. And look, Russell Westbrook is one of those guys that's brought a lot to the Denver Nuggets. They need his energy, speed, athleticism, his competitiveness, all that stuff. Nobody's diminishing that. But over the course of his career, the decision-making has been the question mark with Russell Westbrook at times, and you saw it. Man, you saw it at its worst last night in the last 12 seconds of that game, and as a result, Denver loses a heartbreaker and a critical game when you look at the way these teams are stacked up in the West.
Big game. And there's something about, I always talk about this all the time. Like, if you think you die out there, you have to be just playing. You have to be reacting. And that doesn't mean that you're not processing things. But when I saw him on the layup, when I saw the replay, it was one of those things where it just felt like he was thinking. He was thinking, do I pull this out? Do I go for the layup? And he's caught in between two minds. And that's when you don't react. And to me, that was the biggest thing that I came away with it from. And to think that they put in this effort at home and that place was jumping at the end. There was never a play that wasn't being made, and have the air sucked out of the room like that is just, it's a brutal way to lose the game. Besides Westbrook, though, so all the stuff that got up that, because that's obviously the thing to take away. Where were you at watching this Jokic performance? Where was it at on the scale, on the pantheon of Jokic's performance? Because 61, 10, 10, and 6 threes is ungodly. Nobody's doing stuff like that. That's out of this world.
It's, here's what I'm thinking watching the game, man. And it's just like, I just feel like we got to a place somewhere over the last month or so that everybody's just kind of painting this narrative that it's a foregone conclusion. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is going to win the MVP. And I'm watching Jokic do this and just watching some of the other stuff that he's been doing, including a game that I got to call the first 30-20-20 game in NBA history. And he follows that up with a 60-point triple-double. And it really was kind of easy. And by the way, you're going up against the guy that's considered generally the greatest defensive center of his generation, and Rudy Gobert. So you're not just doing this against, some team playing small or some team with just some center you've never heard of or a guy that can't guard at all. You're going up against Rudy Gobert. And it's not one guy that obviously catches 61 points, but you're still, it's one of the greatest rim deterrents and paint deterrents that this league has seen. And he does it against him. And that's kind of what I was thinking while this was going on. It's like, man, this is why, and I got asked this question a lot over the last few weeks. Who's your MVP? Who's your MVP? And I keep saying, and I have a vote, and I keep saying, man, I want to see this thing out to the wire. Mm-hmm. Why wouldn't we, when you're talking about, especially, and the same thing for Shai. I mean, Shai had that run of 50-point games that he put up earlier this year. Now, Steph Curry last night, the only other guy to have multiple 50-point games until Jokic just did it. But you look at what Shai's doing. Hey, who knows what Shai has in mind here over the last handful of games? And look, and they're not playing for much other than best overall record in the league. Nobody's chasing him in the West, but depending on how many minutes he plays, if he gets any rest, Shai might have a 60, 65 point game in him, just as an exclamation point. It almost reminds me of the year when I was a kid. David Thompson and George Gervin went down to the very last game of the season trying to determine who the scoring champion was going to be. And I might have these numbers right, but I believe on the last game of the season, one of them put up 63 and one of them had 70 plus. Okay, my point being, then they were trying to win the scoring title, not the MVP. But in this case, this is what it kind of feels like. Like, it's almost like, who knows what the other guy has in store tomorrow night or tonight in my case, because I'm sitting here in Oklahoma City about to watch Shai play. So that's kind of what I was thinking. Like, why did we get to a place where these awards just get decided because the general consensus says this is what it's going to be? And I felt like people started getting out there too early on this, man, getting ahead of their skis. Let a guy this great, who's having a historic year, top 3 in scoring, rebounds, and assists, never been done. In fact, I believe the number I was given, never has anybody been in the top 10 in all 3. He's top 3 in all 3 categories, and apparently still doesn't even have his best that he's shown us yet this year because he did it last night. So I'm looking at this, and that's really what I was thinking about, man. This guy, his greatness, has it really gotten to a place where people are desensitized by what this guy is doing? That a year this historic statistically is automatically going to come in second because Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is leading the league in scoring, and he's a great player, and they have such a commanding lead, 16 and a half games lead over Denver. So we made up our minds at some point, and then this guy goes and drops a 60-point triple-double here in the last 10 games of the season in a critical game. It's just, that's kind of what I was thinking, man. It's just like, let's just wait, because who knows what's in store from both of these guys over these last handful of games.
Yeah. It was awesome to see him last night. He had it all going. And when he's hitting a 3-point shot and he's able to go pick and pop versus the deep drops, when you have to have like the veer switches back to him where he can then take the guard and put him in the nail and ISO. My most favorite thing is to see teams try to cycle through pick and roll coverages to deal with him as the screener, because normally you're cycling through them to deal with the ball handler. And it's almost that you have to put these different types of guardrails up to be like, well, the ball handler isn't actually the biggest problem for us. And you see sometimes like wide open layups happen because you're so concerned about a screener. And that's really unique to Jokic. That's not something that's common to like other bigs. So to me, when he's got the pick and pop 3 going, seeing him cycle through all the different reads, that's my most favorite thing to see. And when 61, I mean, he had everything going.
Well, what's incredible about this particular performance is, and it's such a weird thing for the Denver Nuggets. 10 of their made 12s were from the front court. They had 10 made threes made by Aaron Gordon and Nikola Jokic
Mhm.
And I texted at one point during the game, I'm like, man, the lack of 3-point shooting on the rest
Yeah.
of the roster, like consistent, legitimate 3-point shooting. You don't have Michael Porter Jr., which hurts Jamal Murray. I get it, but like last night, it was like, where's it going to come from? And then Jokic has that answer, because you're not winning in the NBA unless you can get to a certain number of threes.
Mhm.
You'd have to be able to do that. Jokic provided, Aaron Gordon provided, including a huge one late. So last night, it was everything. It was the
Yeah.
paint scoring with the floaters, the post ups, the 3-point shooting. He got to the line 24 times. So it was every platform that you can dominate a game offensively. Jokic was able to do it. But ultimately, they had to make some stops in the fourth quarter they couldn't make defensively against Minnesota. Minnesota gave themselves a chance when Anthony Edwards got really hot there in the fourth quarter and put on a show. It looked like at one point now Minnesota's got full control of the game before Denver makes a late surge. But Denver's defense, I thought, let them down in the fourth quarter. And Minnesota was able to put this in a position where you get to overtime, then you get to a second overtime. And then the decision-making at the end of Russell Westbrook cost Denver a game which you could tell by the reaction of Jokic after. His body language leaving the floor. At one point, he's kind of wiping his face, the sweat off his face, and he's like shaking his head with his head down because he knows how important this game was relative to the rest of the Western Conference and the way these teams are bunched together, particularly the Lakers and the battle that they're having with them. So that, I think, is what Jokic was feeling as he left the court, man. It was an opportunity they left slip through their fingers because they couldn't get stops when they had to in the fourth quarter, and then they had horrible decision-making by Westbrook down the stretch that cost them.
Yeah, I actually, you brought up Edwards, and one thing that I really enjoyed seeing with him last night, and I think it's going to be something down the road that they have to kind of filter through and figure out, is like he didn't always force actions in the double teams. A lot of times he was passive. I feel like watching it, one thing that stood out is how they get that escape pass, where they get it, what angle is going to be important. Because a lot of times it was either going parallel or backwards, and then they're only in like a swing situation. But sometimes they got it into the pocket, they got a cutter, they got great stuff. One time he got it out to Conley and then cut and ended up getting a big finish down the stretch where he wanted to end one. And so like when you see that, when you see them cycling through this and know that what's coming in the playoffs for them is there's two coming to the ball with Edwards. What do you see the gears that they were going through last night, and where would you like to see them kind of pick up and improve in that stuff?
Well, here's the thing with Minnesota. I thought that their decision-making out of the timeout, the last turnover that Russell
Mhm.
Westbrook ended up blowing the layup on, I don't understand for the life of me why you would design a play, and it was designed this way from the beginning of the sideline out of bounds. You run Anthony Edwards to a place, comes off the Iverson action of those two high screens running toward the ball, but like he arcs it toward the corner. So when he
Mhm.
catches the ball, he turns and faces. You can't be in a worse place on the floor to accept a double team than where he was. I'd rather a guy get trapped right over half court along the sideline than where he got trapped. He catches the ball with his back against the sideline, very little room to go toward the
Mhm.
baseline. That's sort of cut off from him. They're coming with a blitz because they just did it on the previous possession and it
Yeah.
led to a turnover. So he ends up, look, Randall cuts at the exact time that Anthony Edwards is throwing the ball to him at the 3-point line. So there's a miscommunication there on where to go. But where he caught the ball and the trap that was put upon him leads to those kind of miscommunications. So look, he's gotten a lot better at accepting traffic and managing where the ball goes out of that. He's much better than he was
Mhm.
earlier in his career. He still has a long way to go to have the answers and the patience to understand. And sometimes that means right there in that situation, you put the ball above your head, you let that trap get fully into you, even though it's a high pressure situation, your back's against the sideline. You've got to be more patient and wait to
Yep.
see and read who's the first cutter on your team that's going to lead to the reaction defensively. That's going to tell you now where the ball's supposed to go, because every defense is going to react to the first cutter.
Yeah.
And that's going to maybe bring one or two to that cutter because they might make a mistake. Now it's an easy read how to get the ball out of there to the other side, and you play 3-on-2 on the weak side. He panicked and he got rid of the ball too soon. And he's a young player. He's gotten better. I still think he has a long way to go to be more patient. And that sometimes that means extending your dribble and being a little bit more creative with your dribble to drag guys with you while you're waiting and reading who's going to take the first cutter? Now I know where the ball's supposed to go every time. I don't think he's quite there yet on a level with some of the other elite offensive players in this league that can manipulate the defense a little bit better on a trap.
Yeah, there was a point where he just had it going above the break, and he was able to see where it was coming from. And when he's in that position and he's close enough where he can actually shoot it, he's so dangerous. When they got to him at half court, he kind of accepted it and got rid of it. And he didn't seem as engaged. But when he gets it in that place where he can shoot it or attack it, it's so dangerous for him. What did you think about the guys on the peripheral outside of Edwards, Nikhil Alexander Walker, McDaniels, Gobert? Randall, like, did you see something from these guys where you thought like this felt like a playoff game, especially early on where the physicality was there and it felt like both teams met the physicality once they knew how it was going to be called? Did you see from those guys like, hey, I think these guys could win a couple series?
Yeah, it was kind of, interesting, man. Like there's something about like as soon as these teams line up for the jump ball circle, it feels like a playoff game every single time because of their recent history. And Minnesota now sort of has their number. It's something Denver's going to have to figure out. And I think that's another reason why this one was so important, that Denver figure out a way to close this out, win the game, just because their recent track record against them, obviously what happened last year in the postseason. But it just, it feels like a playoff game when these two teams line up for each other. And it's really, really fun to watch and entertaining. I thought the supporting cast around Anthony Edwards really stepped up in a big way in this game. I mean, Julius Randle had a very good game, 26, 9, and 7. And it was very understated because of the way the game played out and the stuff that Anthony Edwards got, had to do later in the game, sort of, heroic fourth quarter to get them in a position to be there. Nikola Alexander Walker obviously made big shots all night. I loved the post-game interview with Anthony Edwards, and he had his arm around Nikola Alexander Walker. And, they were asking him all about his own game, and all he did was deflect everything to Nikola Alexander Walker, which I thought was pretty cool, and it empowers a teammate and a role player in that situation. 45 minutes off the bench, you're rarely going to see those kind of numbers for a reserve. That's how well he played. His defense is there every night. His offense can be a little bit fickle, but they're a much better team when Nickeil Alexander-Walker is making shots, or Jaden McDaniels. If they both do it on a given night, now you've got a team that I think could be a real serious problem. Look, when I say serious problem, understand right now I'm talking about everybody outside Oklahoma City because I think they're on a different level. But when you talk about the rest of those teams and how you might get 2 rounds before you get to the Thunder, when Minnesota's role players are making 3-point shots, and because you're always going to get the defense out of them, the other end of the floor, when they get more consistency out of that, that's when Minnesota looks like a team that like you shouldn't want to play in the postseason. And that's kind of what I looked at last night and seeing them, and the numbers they put up were impressive, and the way those guys stepped up was impressive.
Yeah, it really was. And Nickeil Alexander Walker, I always love when guys find the development gear, the self-awareness gear of how they're going to survive in the league, because every one of these guys has usually been the best player on every single team they've played on before they get to the league. And I remember watching his first game, and he's Canadian, so back home in Canada, and the shots that he was throwing up, like there was a point where like he was trying to establish like, hey, I can be one of the best guys. And to see his evolution from New Orleans to Utah to here, and to see how he found a role of, I'm going to be a demon on the ball. I'm going to know how to move into open space when double teams come, and I'm going to find places to get spot up shots. I'm going to move the ball. I'm going to make great cuts, great reads. Like to see a guy really make those progressions and save his career and be a 10, 15-year guy now, I love seeing that stuff. And to see him kind of like get over the hump has been so, so cool over the past couple of years.
He's a measuring stick for them. I think he's a pendulum swinger, a barometer in a lot of ways because, he just went through a rough month. He did not shoot the ball well at all in March. His 3-point numbers dropped off the previous month. And, I think he had a stretch recently of 6 straight games where he was in single digits, despite the fact that he's playing heavy minutes. Last 2, he's been a little bit better and showed up in an enormous way in this game. And a lot of it had to do with the defense that Denver was applying to Anthony Edwards and the opportunities that were there. Look, 15 of his 25 shots were threes. So that's a pretty high ratio for him. And there's the reason is because it was a lot harder. The way that they were playing, it was going to be harder for him to turn a corner, get to the rim. So ball being forced out of his hands, guys loading up in the driving lanes on him. That means there's going to be shots to be had around the court. And Nickeil Alexander Walker, if he doesn't have the game he had last night, they lose this game by probably 8 or 10 in regulation. So the fact that, he was there when they had to have him waiting for Anthony Edwards to sort of get going, very good sign for Minnesota when he plays that way.
Yeah, it felt like him, Clark, and Josh Mignette really kept them in touch in the first quarter, second quarter. They kept it from getting away, and then everybody came along with them. I love it. It was a classic game of the year easily. So a couple words now from Adam from Beyond, and then when we get back, we're going to dig into Steph Curry's 12 3-point night and Golden State's huge win on the road in Memphis.
First, let me tell you about Lucy. It's 100% pure nicotine, always tobacco-free, available in pouches, gum, and our favorite, the Breakers. Breakers are pouches with a capsule of liquid flavor inside that helps saturate the pouch. Breakers are available in 4 milligrams or 8 milligrams. They offer the flavors like mint, berry, citrus, and espresso, as well as a whole bunch of other ones. Pouches go all the way up to 12 milligrams, which is quite a bit. If you're not a pouch guy or gal, Lucy Gum is available in 2 milligram, 4 milligram, and 6 milligram options. You can set yourself up with a subscription and have Lucy delivered straight to your door. No weekly gas station trips. Level up your nicotine routine with Lucy. Go to lucy.co/allNBA and use the promo code AllNBA to get 20% off of your first order. Lucy offers free shipping and has a 30-day refund policy if you change your mind. That's lucy.co and use the code AllNBA to get 20% off and always free shipping. Now here comes the fine print. Lucy products are only for adults of legal age, and every order is age verified. Warning, this product contains nicotine. Nicotine is an addictive chemical. Also want to tell you guys about FanDuel. It's bracket season. Maybe you were betting on the games last night. I'll tell you what, Duke versus Alabama, I'm locked in. That's going to be an incredible game. I can't wait for that one. If you want to place a wager on it, you can hop on FanDuel right now, because right now new customers can get $200 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. That's 200 extra bucks to bet on everything from clutch shots to last-second heartbreaks and even who's cutting down the nets. I'm going to take Alabama in that one. I think, as much as I've enjoyed I kind of hope Duke wins, because Cooper Flagg has been fun to watch right now, but I think I'm taking Alabama in it. They just score 1,000,000 points. Take the over. If you've been waiting to join, there's no better time. There's tourney action almost every single day, and FanDuel has amazing bet types like spreads, totals, game props, and so much more. So visit FanDuel.com/AllNBA to get in on the college hoops action all tourney long. Must be 21 or older and present in select states, or 18 plus and present in DC. First online real money wager only. $5 first deposit required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets, which expire 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. FanDuel is offering online sports wagering in Kansas under an agreement with Kansas Star Casino, LLC. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit FanDuel.com/RG. Call 1-888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut, or visit mdgamblinghelp.org in Maryland. Hope is here. Visit gamblinghelplinema.org or call 800-327-5050 for 24/7 support in Massachusetts, or call 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY in New York.
Sorry, I just got done texting Adam. I told him I wanted to take Duke. He could have Alabama if he wanted. Do you think he's gonna respond like, cool, we can do that?
Yeah, he'll hit you back. He'll hit you back. I like that, man. I like that.
Let me ask you.
I'll tell you what, it's going to be a hell of a Final Four, man.
Oh, so all number one seeds, only the second time. I don't want to go too far on a tangent. I was in the 08 one with North Carolina when it was all number one seeds, and like that banquet dinner that night, Derrick Rose, Kevin Love, like the guys that our team had 5 draft picks, like the guys that were rolling through there. I'll never forget that banquet night. It was unbelievable. Calipari's first year at Memphis, like it was a show. So let me ask you before we move on, MPJ and Jamal, Reid, Donte DiVincenzo, a couple guys out last night. Does that change the way you look at this, or is it just Minnesota and Denver? It doesn't matter who's on the court. It's always going to be this type of action.
Yeah, I think so. I don't look. That's a lot of talent. That's a lot of shot making. All right, a lot of responsibility that wasn't on the floor last night. But yeah, that's just kind of how I've come to view when these two teams play. Man, it's spicy, man. I like it.
They really is.
And there's not. It's a different level of spice than it used to be when teams play each other a bunch, and you start to build this up. It doesn't get too chippy between these two teams. Necessarily, that wouldn't be the worst thing in the world if it did. But regardless, no, I don't think it really matters. I mean, I think, Naz Reid's been incredible for them, but obviously, you're missing Michael Porter Jr., Jamal Murray, your second and third best offensive players. And that's very difficult to overcome. But at least you can look at it like this. Both teams shorthanded significantly. So, you still had enough star power on the court to give us something special. I want to
Yeah,
address a couple things real quick. Because sometimes you see things in the chat, man. You just gotta address it. First of all, let me just say something. People that are acting like they know definitively the answer to the MVP question, you got to stop. Stop. It's an opinion. It's an opinion. And if you don't think there's a logical argument for both of these guys to be the MVP this year, then you just don't know anything about basketball. Honestly, you don't know shit about it because people want to be so definitive. It's over. It's one way or the other, by the way. Some people say that's the same thing about Jokic. It's like, you got to stop. Make your case. Make your case. And don't just say it's just about the number of wins. Make your case for the player. You're not right or wrong. You have an opinion. People that vote for the award have a vote. So that's just the first thing. Is people get out of control thinking that they know. They're the expert that knows the answer. It's not. It's subjective, man. That's the whole point about this thing. And also, I see a couple of people were talking about, like, you're praising Jokic on a night when he lost the game. It's just bizarre to me. The guy had a 60-point triple-double. Stop. They didn't lose because of Nikola Jokic. Right.
Yeah.
If they had handled the last 12 seconds better, they probably do get a win. Does that mean then that the 60-point triple double means a lot more in your mind because they took the foul, they made the free throws, and they win the game, as opposed to two really boneheaded plays that lead to a loss? That you view a 60-point triple double completely differently because of that? That's just silly. So I just wanted to get that off my chest, man. Sometimes
there you go,
people
man.
get too definitive in their takes. State your case and back it up with your point. That's all you can do.
There you go. There you go. You want the soapbox back? Or are you good for right now?
No, I'm good, man. I'm good. All you.
Well, we saw a game of the year, and we saw one of the all-time performances. And we were talking before. We were talking when it's going on. When Steph Curry has it going, there's nothing in the world like it. It's appointment television. And when he makes the first couple, I texted. I was in the middle of the first quarter. When he gets the first couple going, you just think like, hey, could this be a night for him? Because if it starts rolling downhill and he starts hunting them and a few go in, it's just magic to watch. And he was absolutely spectacular last night. 52 points, 10 rebounds, 8 assists, 12 threes, 12 for 20 from three. He got 20 of them up. And there were just a few where he let go. I made audible noises, like make number 7 and make number 8, the one from the corner and the one on the trail with Jimmy Butler. They're just ones that people don't even think about and pick up basketball at Lifetime Fitness or LA Fitness. Like, hey, I'm going to let this go. And this guy's in one of the biggest games of their regular season, matters for seeding, and he's hunting those type of shots. I mean, the irrational confidence, and it's not irrational for him, but anybody else, it would be irrational confidence that he lets it fly with, is so incredibly enjoyable to watch. So I know that you came away with Steph Curry, but give me your take on it because he was absolutely spectacular last night.
There are, listen, I mean, much as we've all watched him and watched him entertain us for all these years, there are still certain nights, though, when you kind of watch him early and you definitely feel if he hits a couple early, and it's not just that he made a couple, it's the way he looked. And he's addressed it. He said he's got a full tank. He feels fresh. It is the one benefit of an injury that a guy can suffer at any point after the All-Star break. And in some cases, maybe a little bit more extended time. Some cases, maybe it's just a week off. It is incredible what that does for the way your legs feel. And he addressed that after the game. Steve Kerr addressed it. And it's just obvious. And I just know from experience, it's incredible. When you get to that point, man, you're up there and you've played, 65, 70 games, and you're reaching that point of the season, man. Like your legs are burning every night, especially with the importance of these games. How the games have gotten more physical here down the stretch. It's difficult to play through it sometimes. You get that little bit of time off, and you could see it in the beginning of the game. He was moving with just a frenetic energy, and I think Memphis came out a little bit early, and you have to be in such a state of readiness at the beginning of the game for Curry to not let what happened happen, where he gets a couple of decent looks, and now you've got a whole different mentality on your hands. So he got loose early. And you could definitely see it. And by the end of the first quarter, when he had 19 points, I started thinking to myself, one of these nights, you would think he's going, that 14 made threes that Klay Thompson put up against the Bulls a number of years ago is in play. And it seems only fitting that Curry would be the guy that ends up with that record, single game 3 record, right? And it's weird because he's never been able to get there. And, he's at the point of his career. He's older, and you're like, who knows? Will he ever really go on one of those runs again and make you think legitimately has a chance? I thought last night at halftime it was going to be the night. I really did. I was texting some people that, man, I think this is the night Curry gets 15 threes. And he's going to need them, by the way, because it was a close game. Because they didn't get out to a 25-point lead. Then you think he's not going to get it. It was close. But unfortunately, he missed 2 or 3 really good looks. The second half, like that would have probably put him in that range, or maybe he goes for it later in the game, but he wasn't able to do it. But overall, the guy, to me, when he gets going, I still think that's the best show and best entertainment value in the NBA when Steph Curry gets on one of those runs.
Yeah, I thought what you said about the 15, I thought it was in play as well. And then he came back in the fourth and he had 11. And I thought for that little stretch, maybe like 9 to 6 minutes in the game, he pressed, he went for it. And one thing that I think separates him, and maybe he'll never get it, and this might be the reason why, is it felt like he put the team above him at that point. Because what he ended up doing from that point on is he ended up accepting the blitz actions, and he ended up getting to the next look. Draymond got a dunk. Jimmy got a dunk. They went to the next action and played advantage basketball. And I think at that point, like there's something in him that if those go down, I think he goes for it in the context of the game. But once they didn't, he stopped with the aggression that he was actually hunting them for in that little stretch when he came back in. And to me, that's one of the things that also separates him as one of the great players of our time, is to have that ability to actually be like, I'm going to set the record for the most threes ever made in an NBA game and probably be able to get it, but then put the team above yourself in that moment. That's real special. Like that's not stuff that's common.
I agree. And I think, he alluded to this too. He did a post-game interview as well. And he talked about this. I think he missed a couple at the start of the second half that he'd love to have back. That again, that now, you get to like 11, 12 in the third quarter. I think there's a great chance that he does it. He missed a couple. After one of them, he kind of smacked his hands together. It was almost like he kind of knew, like this was the window to do this, because at some point this game's still tight.
Left wing. Yep.
Yeah, you got to think differently later. And to your point, he missed one with 6.5 minutes to go. He missed one with 4.5 minutes to go. Both good looks. He missed them both. There was a 1-point game when he missed the second one. 4.5 minutes to go. And just look at the way he managed the rest of the game. You're right. And like Steph Curry, no one's going to sit here and think he would ever be going for a record at the expense of winning a game. So no one would ever think that about Steph Curry. But at the same time, I do think he started to manipulate the defense differently to win the game in the last 4 to 5 minutes of the game.
Yeah.
As opposed to when you're feeling it, a guy like that really hunting that quick trigger pull off a dribble handoff or off a ball screen and any kind of space, letting it fly. It's a different mentality in the middle of the second quarter than it's going to be in the middle of the fourth, when he figures, okay, now it's just absolute winning time. I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to drag 2. I'm going to do everything I can, move the basketball. We're going to get easy shots off of this. And that's kind of how he played it out. And again, I said it earlier, at the point he went over 50, he was only the second player to have multiple 50-point games this year. And you look at where he is in his career, Shay's the other guy. Just, incredible, man. Like for me personally, and it always gets down to this, it's an opinion. Most entertaining players in your lifetime, just flat out sheer entertainment. Can't wait to watch the game, watch him play. I think Jordan, Bird, and Curry are probably my top 3 favorite players of all time.
Yeah, it's not a bad list. What about his, and this will be the last thing I leave you with on Curry. What about his whistle? Because sometimes I watch him and I think like, man, there's no way this guy's getting dogged like this. Like one of the greatest to ever play the game. And like they're letting this contact get away on him. Like that makes no sense. Like, what do you think about his whistle? Because it seems like it's always that way. And last night it felt especially rough on him.
Yeah, I think that, look, I've been watching it all year. I've had conversations with Steve Kerr about it, and he gets held, legally held. And when I say legally, I mean it's allowed. Not that it's necessarily legal by the definition in the rule book. Off ball more than anybody in the league, and why? You have to figure a way to impede him, slow him up. You can't let him get separation, and then have a running start off of these ball screens or handoffs. So you've got to do what you can. More and more teams, it's weird because he doesn't always get played top side where someone's on the high side of him, literally
Yeah.
holding him physically, preventing him from running out, toward half court to go get the basketball. Some teams it seems like they haven't even talked about it, honestly. It's like, how can you not be more prepared to play this guy? But other teams, and we've seen it, the Kings employed a strategy against him a couple weeks ago that actually looked like a high school game when there's that one player on the court that's a Division I player, and teams go full sellout to keep that ball out of that guy's hands. And I remember against the Kings that night, he just let his players play 4-on-4 on the weak side of the floor, and they scored almost every time. And he's like, you guys want to do this, we'll take the win. He kind of got that last night with Jalen Wells. Like, Jalen Wells was selling out to such an extent on the high side. Curry was still trying to run through him, and he was getting held, grabbed. He got to the line 8 times. He probably had another 6 to 8 free throws that they could have called off the ball when they were in a penalty that they didn't. So I agree with you, man. I think some nights it feels a little bit more sustained off the ball contact than others. And I felt last night was one of those nights. So I do agree.
Yeah. Yeah. What do you think about on the other side of the coin and Draymond, Jimmy out there? When they're out there without Steph, it feels like there's a different level of gravity that can exist because Jimmy can take the ball in his hands. When they're out there together with Steph, it feels like Steph can neutralize one of the deep drops. So if you want to play deep off Jimmy or if you want to play deep off Draymond, he can neutralize one of those with the threat of get actions coming back to the ball. But it felt like for a second with both of them out there, it got really, really sludgy and it got clogged up and it felt like he couldn't neutralize both. And I think that's too much to ask for. What do you think is going to have to happen when they get to the playoffs? Is Jimmy just going to have to be like, you know what, I'm willing to shoot it? Because Draymond's shooting a few of them, but you don't feel great about any of them. And then he gets to the push shot and you don't really feel so great about that. Is it going to have to be that Jimmy's like, fine, you know what, I'll let it rip? Or what do you see? How can they get rid of that sludginess?
Yeah, look, Jimmy Butler's track record has been as the stakes go up and the playoff games go up, he seems to be more willing to take the shot from the 3-point line. The ones that are there in the rhythm of the game, I think it's better for their offense to do it. But again, he's not a super comfortable 3-point shooter. It's very flat. There are nights when he's not feeling it at all, and he still has a way of taking the action to a defender that's 10 feet off of him and figure out a way to play through that with his jump stops and his pivots, and he gets fouled and he gets to that spot, forces like an overreaction defensively around him, and then he'll kick it back out even when it looks like he should have shot it. So somehow, some way, he has figured out a way to manage it, even though he's not a significant threat. He doesn't look at the rim. He does seem more willing on those nights when you're not expecting it in the playoff game, where he'll take 3 or 4 of them in the first half. And maybe he makes a couple, and it seems to open things up for him as well. So look, any way you slice it, there's no denying the impact he's had on what this team has done offensively, the impact that he's had on Steph Curry. All of the data and all of the metrics bear that out. I don't think the shot distribution last night is long-term success for Golden State a good thing. For him to take more shots than Draymond, Butler, and Moses Moody combined, that's like 3 starters. You should take as many shots as 3 guys for Curry. And look, he got hot early, so that explains some of that.
Yeah.
I think the overall balance that they've played with since they got Jimmy Butler is a better formula for them. And understanding Curry's going to have these mini bursts throughout the game where it's going to be all about him.
Yeah. So we'll get to Memphis. Shout out Moses Moody. Moses Moody has been incredible. Just like Nickeil Alexander-Walker. I love when guys get over the hump. I love when they have the self-awareness. He was getting deflections on the ball. He is one of those on-ball demons where he accepts the primary ball handler no matter how good they are. And he's willing to pick up. His length is a problem. And I love when guys kind of figure it out. So shout out Moses Moody. On the other side, the Memphis side, man, what is going on? Coach fired. Out of the last 10, 2 wins, 8 losses. Like, they're in danger of slipping into the play-in. I asked this last night. Like, would you be totally shocked if I told you they missed the playoffs because they lost 2 play-in games? Like, is that the point where we're at with the Memphis Grizzlies?
I don't think you'd be shocked by that because of who you're going to end up having to play potentially in those games. You're not going to be shocked by that. Look, I haven't even had a chance because of the timing of it all. When Taylor Jenkins got fired, I really haven't had a chance on this show to talk about it. I understand, and there's been a lot of reporting as to why this went down. All of that could have been handled in the offseason. There is nothing that they did that is going to be beneficial to this team down the stretch and into the play-in or playoff situation. It makes no sense, the timing of it at that time of the year. So for me, let's start with that. I think that's going to be a difficult thing for them to overcome. They've got talent. I've called, I think, 3 or 4 Memphis games this year. I don't even know. I've lost track. And every game they were shorthanded. Yeah, I think Ja missed at least half of those games, if not maybe 3 out of the 4. Jaren Jackson missed time. Desmond Bane was out. So I've never really seen them at full strength, but I've always admired when Taylor Jenkins was there. I always admired like the fact that they battle, they compete, they dig out of deficits in games, they continue to come at you. They've had role players step up in huge ways on given nights to give themselves a chance. The number of starting lineups that he was forced to use because of all the injuries and guys being out. I just didn't understand. Look, I like Taylor Jenkins a lot. I think he's really bright. You make a coaching move, you make a coaching move. That's an organizational decision. I could have, my own opinion to disagree with that, and I do, but I particularly disagree with the timing of it. With a team like this that's been with this guy through the playoffs, through all of the stuff that they've gone through, and you got the playoffs around the corner, and you think that this is a good idea, couldn't have possibly disagreed with it more. Let's see how it bears out, but there's no doubt they have zero momentum right now. And this was a game that, was winnable for them, but they were abhorrent defensively most of the night. I don't know how you think this moves it forward for them here this late in the year to get some momentum and actually do some damage in the postseason. So I think it's more likely what you said. The other thing happens where they get bounced without winning a play-in game and they go home. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but I'd probably be less shocked by that than them doing any sort of real damage in the postseason.
Yeah, absolutely. And so when I watched last night, Morant had a pretty good shooting game. A few go down. I think the thing that separates, I was talking to somebody, Curry's the only guy at that size that's been able to be the best player on a championship team. And shooting is the thing that separates him. And we saw it last night, not only the makes, but the fear he puts in you as a defense, the gravity that he can pull to you when he doesn't even have the ball, the off-ball stuff, what he can do in terms of blitz and getting to 4-on-3s, like all that stuff. And Morant last night, 5 threes, 5 out of 8, stopped shooting it for a long stretch there in the second half. He's not a shooter. When the ball comes out of his hands, you don't feel great about it. Like it's not one of those type shots. A few go in. Do you think that it's just one of those things where it doesn't matter who you put in, Taylor Jenkins or anybody else right now? It's a roster construction thing where like this thing doesn't work if you want to reach the top levels because they don't have enough shooting on the court? Or is it something where you just need to tinker?
Shooting's a major issue. In the league, the way it's set up, it's tough. But look, you can be a team that's not a super high volume 3-point shooting team if you shoot a decent percentage, and there are teams like that in the league. In the case of Memphis, it's so inconsistent and fickle. I think it's a problem in a given night. For me, the way they need to play and the way that they played most of the time under Taylor Jenkins, you need to play fast. You need to convert turnovers into transition points. You need to dominate the paint offensively. You do that, then you got a chance. You're playing to your personnel. Now, I think that certainly, adding shooting is always a good thing if you can figure out a way to do that. But I think they've got the athletes and the overall team speed to become an elite defensive team that converts in opportunities into the open floor, where that negates some of the lack of 3-point shooting. And I don't think that they're as good at that as they should be based on their personnel. Look, and I also think Ja Morant is an incredibly talented guy. I think Ja Morant, you can't tell me that that's an easy like coaching relationship, no matter who is going to be in that spot.
Mm-hmm.
There's something about him that there's a body language thing to him, and it almost seems like there's times that he's just frustrated and angry throughout the game, and it can't be easy, but there's a boatload of talent in there if you can find a defense that is so good that they create opportunities to allow him to play to his strengths. Now, one last thing about him, and this is because all the injuries he's had, including the last one he had, he's taken out of the air, awkward landing. He misses time. His shoulder still isn't right. He's had a number of those throughout his career. I think he has not played with the reckless abandon that he did earlier in his career, which made him sort of special. It made him right. It made him be able to take on those backline defenders and his size and finish over them, finish through them and all that. And I think he made a conscious decision to literally save his career and allow him to be on the floor more, to not play that way as often. But when you're such an inconsistent shooter, or you're a guy that a lot of nights that 3-point shot is just not there for you, that makes it difficult if you're not going to play that way. So that's also
Yeah.
something that I think they need to solve. But I think for me, I would turn this team into the best defensive team that I could, and play up and down as much as you can and dominate the paint. And then, you're going to hope that you can add enough shooting that on those nights when that's not there, you can make enough to be in games with the high volume teams.
Yeah, that's going to be tough with Eddie in the middle, because what he could do to survive in college basketball with switches or playing and drop, he can't do that at this level. So, I know that he's young and there's time to develop, and there's examples out there of Zubac or other guys where you can get to that point, but there's going to have to be some sort of switch that flips where he's going to be able to survive in pick and roll actions. Because the dudes at this level, man, they will light it up. They are not scared to kill you on a switch. We saw Derek White put it to him, or if you can go Porzingis, and Curry had it last night. So going through it, there's changes to be made. You're right. You got a big one tonight. You've got Pistons, Thunder. Not sure if Cade's going to play, game time decision. Aaron Wiggins out. Pistons currently 5th in the East, 1 game ahead of the Bucks, 2 behind the Pacers. Like, the fact that we're even talking about the Pistons not playing a play-in game because they're not in the lottery, they're in the playoffs. That's just incredible. So just unbelievable season from them. What are you looking for tonight in this game?
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm disappointed because this game was flexed. We had a different game schedule tonight. It was OKC. It was New Orleans and the Clippers. And New Orleans, obviously, the season they've had, and then they shut down Zion. So it was like we flexed into this game, which was like, oh, psyched, because I haven't seen Detroit since the preseason live, and they've been one of the great stories in the league this year. And, of course, what happens? Not only is Cade Cunningham banged up, then you get the suspensions because of the fight the other night. So now the Isaiah Stewart's not going to be out there. Ron Holland's not out. Marcus Sasser. Right, and that just means really limited depth. And then if Cade doesn't play on top of it, and you go up against this buzzsaw that is Oklahoma City, won 17 out of 18, number 1 in the league in every imaginable metric defensively, and you're that shorthanded, I don't know what we're going to get tonight. I've got my fingers crossed for Cade. The only thing I think that could be saving grace is, he's not that far from home, right? So you think, maybe he's got a crew rolling through here tonight. They were counting on his one trip to OKC, and and the challenge of going up against Shea, maybe that's something that gets his juices flowing. But if you can't go, you can't go. So we're going to see what happens with this game. But look, to me, it won't, no matter what happens, it's not going to take away at all from the story that has been the Detroit Pistons, which has been, I think, from a team standpoint, the best story in the league this year. I expected Oklahoma City to be great. Cleveland was really good last year. They just took it up a notch. This is the best story. This team was 4-39 last year, at basically a little over the midway point of the season. 4-39 to start the year, and they are the 5 seed in the Eastern Conference as we sit here, with an incredibly young team. So I think no matter what happens, Detroit's been a great story. They're going to be a great story with whatever they do in the playoffs. I think they're going to be a very tough first-round series for whoever they get. And look, there's not really anything left to say about Oklahoma City. I mean, that's been the best team in the league this year. And right now, the way that team is shooting the ball, number 1 in the league in 3-point percentage since the All-Star break. Okay, so not only is their defense able to turn up the heat, defend the paint better than any team in the league, defend the 3 better than any team in the league, defend transition better than any team in the league, give up fewer points than any team in the league off of their own turnovers. On top of that, they're going to shoot 42% from the 3 since the All-Star break collectively. Like, come on, man. What else can you say about what this team has done? It's damn near basketball perfection what they've put out there this year. So, I wouldn't expect anything less tonight.
Yeah, the quality of the looks that they generate through having Shea bringing to the ball, Hartenstein being able to be a hub. You have Chet who can pick and pop, like add a different element. You can put in Caruso playing off the downhill action on 4-on-3 with Shea. There's just so much fun stuff that they can get to. And they have one of my favorite guys. I always talk about the guys that make kind of like the jump of development, the self-awareness. And Isaiah Joe's journey is one of my favorite ones, because he's just in that place where consistently pounding the rock, doing everything he can do every single day. And he got an opportunity in Philly, made the most of it, and somehow got crunched out of there. I have no idea how that happened, but he gets picked up in Oklahoma City and still every single day doing everything he can, just hitting singles. And to see a guy like that get over the hump from undrafted, like it's so cool. And man, can he shoot it? God, can he shoot it? He's
Look,
got one of those.
I was going over my game notes this morning, putting them together for the game. I just wanted to put in perspective the way this team is shooting the ball right now for a long stretch. Like, I'm just a few of these guys, like individually, what's going on across their roster. It's incredible to have this many guys in this kind of rhythm from the three at the same time. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander in March, 41% from the three-point line. Like, first of all, he's taken 60% more threes this year than any other year. So he clearly added that to his game in the offseason. And now he's shooting it at that kind of a rate, 41% in March, large sample size. Jalen Williams, his running mate, 45% on threes since the All-Star break. Lou Dortz, 52% in his last 9 games. Isaiah Joe, since January 1st, 46% from the three-point line. Cason Wallace, 50% from the three-point line in the month of March. Jalen Williams, the other one, 50% from the three-point line in March. I mean, I just go up and down their roster. These aren't like, oh, he's shooting the ball pretty well right now. I'm talking about shooting numbers that put you like at the top of the league if the sample size was a little bit bigger. All of them, I just listed 6 guys, all at the same time. It's really, to me, look, obviously their defense was incredible all year. Beginning of the year, we thought, okay, this looks like a contender, whatnot. What has happened with their 3-point shooting over the last 2 months has taken them from a team that, like, yeah, okay, I think that, they could be ready this year, to how the hell are you supposed to deal with all of this, with what they're doing to you defensively? And now on the other end, in addition to the pace they play with and the points in the paint they play with and all of that, and Shai's unbelievable one-on-one game. Now what are you supposed to do when across the roster this many guys are heaters at the same time? That's what we're dealing with Oklahoma City, man. And look, they're really young. They don't have a ton of collective winning in the playoff combined. So that's still out there. I think if you want to have a doubt, that would be it, because you can't doubt anything from a basketball perspective with this team. They're deep, they defend, and they're shooting the lights out. And they've got a superstar offensive player, incredibly well coached. So if you want to have one thing left, it would be that, don't have a lot of experience in the postseason. Yeah. If that's what you want to hang your hat on with this team and say, that's why I won't think they can win it all, go ahead. But none of the actual basketball that we're watching says that this team is not ready to win a title this year.
Yeah. Shout out Chip England coming over from the Spurs to Oklahoma City. And also, last thing on their shooting, I love shot prep footwork. It's you make or miss so many shots before you actually shoot it. It's what happens before the ball gets to you. What are you doing with your feet? How are you putting yourself in rhythm and on balance with the basketball? And they collectively as a team across the board have the best shot prep footwork I've seen of any team. Like, they are doing all the work early before the ball gets to you. And it's such a joy to watch in terms of watching people shoot the ball. I just absolutely love it. Shout outs, right? Presented by FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Get started with a $150 bonus bet when you win your first $5 bet on FanDuel.com/AllNBA. Legs, this is on your home turf, so you're up first. Who's your guy? Who do you want to shout out?
And I feel we typically go with, guys that we'd want to say under the radar guys. And this isn't necessarily an under the radar player, but I don't know where the New York Knicks would be right now without OG Anunoby. Like, again, like sometimes things happen in real time in the course of a season that are such an incredible jump over what they have done to that point in their careers that it just smacks you upside the head. And that's what's going on with OG Anunoby right now. I mean, 23 points a game since March 1st, but look at his last 5 games, 27, 28, 31, 28, 35 in his last 5 games. I mean, you're talking about a guy that primarily was labeled a 3-and-D player in Toronto. New York goes and gets him primarily because of his defense. But now you're starting to see, okay, maybe he's a little bit more than a 3-and-D guy. Like, he's scoring at a higher level than that. He's surpassed that label. But this, I mean, come on, man. What he has done in the absence of Jalen Brunson to help carry this team offensively and keep their head afloat, and what that could mean when you get Brunson back, who look, he might take some time to find his form, because this is a long layoff, and who knows if he's ever even going to feel right. I think OG Anunoby emergence as a top tier scorer over this stretch has been a great story. So that's my shout out.
Yeah, I love that. My college teammate, we just did the annual Danny Green All-Stars. Like those guys that are outside the top 3 on a team, but are going to be the ones that would put a championship team over the top. And OG made our list. And one of the things about OG is he was with Danny, and Danny said he always wanted to be a little bit more in terms of primary ball handler, saw guys get in the bag. And he just told him, like, you can get the bag just by being who you are. And self-awareness is so big to me. And when we went through it, 83% of his baskets on the year were assisted. And to me, that just sticks out of this guy knows, like, I'm playing off closeouts. I'm cutting to the rim. I'm in the dunker spot, help up the lane. I'm finishing. And like, to me, seeing guys like that, I always think of the self-awareness and getting over the top of getting out of your own way and knowing where you fit in the ecosystem and what you're going to thrive in. And OG really exemplifies that right now. My guy, I got Peyton Watson, and this isn't an Adam thing. I'm not on the Denver bandwagon for everything Adam when filling in. I'm not trying to be Adam here, but I've phrased it so much this show. I love when guys figure it out. And sometimes sitting out, you mentioned it about Steph and legs feeling good. I think it happened with Randall this year, and I think it happened with Watson. Sometimes sitting out and watching the games and seeing where you would fit in and what opportunities are there, and seeing how little you actually have to do, how much you don't have to press, how you just have to read and react to the advantages that the best players on your team are creating, and then fill in the gaps where you can be special. It feels like Peyton got that. Over the past 5, he's been playing well, 12 points, 5 rebounds, 2 assists. But over the past 5, 3.2 blocks a game. I mean, he is the best rim defender who's a non-big in the NBA. I mean, some of the blocks he had last night, Clark had a slip on a blitz on an Edwards pick and roll, and he came from the weak side, the one-eye weak side, and just packed it. He had one on Gobert. There are times where he just comes out of nowhere. He can do it on the run. He can do it from behind you. He can jump straight up vertically and go get one. The element that he's bringing right now to their team, because you don't have that with Jokic. You have Jokic with great hands, deflection, steals, but the rim protection that he's bringing from that position, it's something that they haven't had as an element, and it is so cool to see. And I love when guys get over the hump. So Peyton Watson, shout out Peyton Watson. Keep doing it, man.
I love it. He's a major difference maker for them. When Peyton Watson is a guy that his name is called a lot on the broadcast, the Denver Nuggets typically win those games.
Yeah, the only 2.2 threes a game over that time, 27%.
Yeah.
Like there's it happened last year in the playoffs in the Minnesota series, kind of couldn't play. There's going to be a moment where he's going to have to put together great shot prep footwork and make a few. He's not going to have to be, you think you die. It can't be catch and then, oh, I guess I got to shoot it. It's got to be before the ball gets to him. Everything's got to be moving on that machine. I'm rooting for him though. All right, James, we got any super chats today? Any shout outs from you? Okay, super chat from DF. How can Malone play Westbrook in the playoffs, especially over Pickett? It was clear who should have closed last night. Westbrook is going to get Denver eliminated. Tim, you want to take this one first?
Yeah, listen, I think that's going to be a tight rope to walk for him, like, because they need what he brings. But I also think, and look, you don't want to beat him up too much for last night, but I mean, the decision making at times and the inefficiency at times can be a problem. But at the same time, they're not in a position they're in right now, which is third in the West. They're not there without Russell Westbrook. The guys had a dramatic impact on this team. They needed his speed and athleticism and just toughness, competitiveness. They needed his voice too. You listen to Michael Malone talk about what he brings to the locker room with a bunch of quiet, nice guys as he describes them on that team. And Westbrook comes in with a different vibe. Teams need that. He's brought a lot to that, but there's no doubt about it. I mean, you gotta be careful what positions he finds himself in with the basketball late in games. And look, at Jokic is going to be running the show. Westbrook's going to play a lot in the postseason. How they close games, that could be a little bit different.
Yeah, I agree. And even before, like, he made a great play. Jokic got trapped in the post. Like, he found the space on the baseline, made 2 big free throws. When I think of Westbrook, you ever seen Along Came Polly, the movie, the Ben Stiller movie?
Yeah, I love that movie. Yeah.
God, I always think of the story of the hippo. Like, if you watch Russell Westbrook and you want him to be a zebra, Claude educating everybody. he's never going to be anything other than the hippo. So like he's going to be him, and it's going to be on you, just like you said, up to Malone, to make sure that when the time comes that it's not supposed to be, hey, you know what, we kind of need a zebra in there, not a hippo right now. Like he's going to have to push the right buttons, but Russell's going to be Russell, and it's going to be great sometimes and not so great sometimes. James, any other super chats? Oh, here we go from Psycho Blues. Okay. With an MVP race so close, B-Ball, ooh, I don't know what that says, thinks there should be an official, quote, at least you tried cake for the runner-up. Can't be worse than the beer that ended Luka's career in Dallas. So basically he's saying, the MVP, then at least you tried if you get second place in MVP. What do you think about this cake? And if it does exist, what kind of cake is it? Is it red velvet? Is it cookie cake?
I think that cake already exists. I think it's called First Team All NBA. Like that's your consolation prize for not winning the MVP. You know, it's interesting the way these things go. Look, LeBron won 4 in 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
And he still had obviously, when you look at him now, he still had a lot of juice and never won another one. And it's almost like once the mentality goes away from a guy, they might never have another chance. So it's going to be kind of like, and I don't know historically, I don't have it in front of me, but I don't know that if Jokic doesn't win it, will there ever be a better year that's been put up by any player in NBA history that didn't result in the MVP? You know, so you got to ask yourself that. So the consolation, though, at the end of the day is you get first team All NBA, and hopefully, if you're Jokic, you play deep into the postseason. I mean, I guess that's the consolation prize. Guys get momentum in this award. Like, I think Shai Gilgeous-Alexander deserving. So is Jokic, man. You can't say either one of these guys are not. It's just silly to say that. They're both deserving. So we'll see ultimately how the vote breaks out. And is it not as close as maybe some people think it should be? Is it closer than some people think it should be? We're not going to know that for a while.
Yeah. All right, James, hit me with another one. We got a few today. All right. Legs, what do you think about Draymond's sneaky/aggressive dribble handoffs with Steph? Got Jalen Wells at the start of the third quarter, and it was hilarious.
The one he got him with at the start of the third quarter was one of the smartest plays I've seen all year. You know, Jalen Wells is standing on the high side of Steph Curry, 40 feet from the basket, and the ball is behind him, coming over half court. So the obviously there had to have been either a discussion of it at halftime or just eye contact in the moment that Draymond knew he could go at Steph full speed. And then basically what he did, Steph released at the last second at exactly the time Draymond handed him the ball, and he could wedge his body in between him and Jalen Wells so that Steph could just take that one dribble toward the three-point line and pull a three. I thought it was absolutely brilliant. That's very difficult to pull off in the game when guys are being top-sided. But in that particular case, because he was so far from the basket, it made sense for Draymond to give that a shot. I thought it was brilliant.
Yeah, there's no more duo. Maybe Jokic and Murray, but I think Jokic and Murray and Green and Curry, like those are the two duos where you just know they see the game through the exact same lens. And whether they talk about it or not talk about it, there's stuff that they just they see it and they just go with it. It's so fun to watch. All right. James. Knicks aren't going to win the championship this season. What would you say are the moves they need to make in order to bridge the gap? Is it coaching? Is that a pun? Can they get? Is there a mulligan on those 5 picks? Can they get them back? Bridge the gap? Wow, this is way to go.
Yeah, that's tough. All right, that's tough. Look, here's what I will say, and you know, I've known Tibbs a long time. I like him very much. I think he's a very good coach. Depending on how this plays out, I mean, I don't know if the Brunson injury, if he comes back and he's rusty in a first round series, and somehow they got upset. Would that be enough to say, oh, you know, Brunson wasn't right, and so you know, how can you fire a guy? If Brunson comes back and he looks close to Jalen Brunson, and somehow, some way, they get upset in the first round, is Tom Thibodeau in trouble? Probably.
Who's the one they least like to see out of the Pistons, the Bucks, and the Pacers? Who do they least want to see, and who do they most want to see?
I think it should be the Pacers.
Yeah,
it should be the Pacers. Pacers are a very difficult team to prepare for. Their style of play. They can be a tough team to corral, man, when they're running their offense and they're humming. I wouldn't want to play the Indiana Pacers. I think they're kind of a sleepery type team.
Mhm.
I like Detroit a lot. They're going to battle. I don't know that Detroit's ready to take that kind of leap this year and win a playoff series. I think that would be a reach. And the Milwaukee Bucks without Lillard, I don't know how you'd compare them necessarily. I know Giannis is a freak, and that's a lot to deal with in a series as well from a personnel standpoint. But I think you could come up with a realistic game plan against him without Lillard. Game by game gets tighter and tighter to make him play in more and more traffic.
Yeah.
I don't know what you do about Indiana. It's not one guy. It's not one set. It's the way they play collectively offensively with their pace. So for me, it's the Pacers. I think they would represent the most dangerous team of the three.
Yeah, I agree. Last one. All right. 2 teams won yearly series over OKC. Golden State 2-1 without Jimmy, and Dallas 3-1 with Luka. Does Golden State have the best shot at OKC in the playoffs?
I would say the Lakers probably would be at the top of the list, assuming that they're fully healthy when they need to be. And they haven't gotten back to the defensive level they were at before LeBron got hurt. But during that stretch, and the first 3-4 games with Luka were a disaster. I mean, they had to figure out ways to protect him. JJ Redick got better at that. Their defense and some of the smaller lineups they employed were very effective. Now, look, Oklahoma City's a big team, but when you have Luka and LeBron, 2 unique players that control the action and the pace the way that they do, if those guys are playing well, shooting well, and in rhythm, I think that represents the most unique challenge that any team would have in the Western Conference to have to play against. I'd still favor Oklahoma City. I'd be, honestly, right now as we sit here, very surprised if OKC is not in the finals. But if you're asking me what team could beat, maybe throw the biggest scare into them, I think the uniqueness of LeBron and Luka pairing could be something that's different for OKC to defend than any other team.
Yeah, I think just thinking about the Lakers in that type of series and the schematic aspect of it, Dorian Finney-Smith has played the 5 in Brooklyn. Like the idea of putting him into the position where Luka can bring 2 to the ball and then LeBron is playing somewhere on the backside of a 4-on-3, that's terrifying. And there was a point where they really got to that early. And I do agree. There's only one guy that's beat them, this team, and it was Luka. And it was because of the gravity that he can bring. And his average distance of pick and roll last year was like 30 feet away from the basket in the playoffs. Like that's so much space on the backside to be able to play into. I think that was the last one. James, are there any more?
That is everything. Got them all.
That's everything. All right, Legs, thank you so much for letting me fill in for Adam Mares. I don't know if I got it right. All right, you guys are off tomorrow, but you'll be back on Friday. I'm going to see if Adam's hit me back about that Duke-Alabama bet. Maybe I can still squeeze that one in.
Yeah, let me know. Let me know how that goes.
Yeah.
I'm curious.
Yeah, enjoy the game tonight. Thanks for having me.
All right, appreciate it.
Silly like the mayor.